ABC News Nightline. Reporting from Washington, Ted Koppel.
It's the sort of statement designed to be quoted and meant to scare the hell out of people. One forecaster tonight said that the 25 million residents along the eastern seaboard are looking down a gun barrel. He was talking about Hurricane Gloria, and he intended to be anything but reassuring. And from Massachusetts on south, people seem to be getting the message. Batten down and get out of the way. New York City's Mayor Ed Koch put it this way: anyone who drives a car into New York City tomorrow ought to have his head examined. Indeed, in New York, the gigantic World Trade Center has been ordered closed. And down the East Coast, more than 1 million residents of low-lying areas have been urged to evacuate. Joining us again live tonight from the National Hurricane Center, a thoroughly exhausted but still watchful Dr. Neil Frank, director of the center. Neil, permit me a stupid question. Isn't there anything we can do in terms of weather modification, anything we can do to undercut the force of a hurricane like this?
Well, we're dealing with awesome power when we talk about the hurricane. The hurricane, in just a few seconds of time, consumes the amount of energy that may have been generated by one of our earlier atomic bombs. And so man just doesn't deal in that level of energy. It's very difficult for us to comprehend the amount of energy that is being consumed out there tonight.
So there is nothing that can be done to alter the course of a hurricane by as much as a quarter of a mile?
No, not at all. And of course, the experiments that were conducted more than a decade ago were designed to try to get the hurricane to weaken a little bit. We were doing nothing with the steering currents at all.
All right. That, I assume, is why you folks are being as really dire in your warnings to people. You really want to scare people a little bit, don't you?
Well, certainly we don't want people to stay on the coastline and gamble with their life. And anytime you got a hurricane that's this powerful, that's threatening the coastal areas where we have so many people, what we hope will happen is the people will get back to high ground, the safety of the inland locations, and they just won't risk their life. If we lose some homes, okay, but let's make sure we get everybody back to high ground.
Okay, Neil, what are we most concerned about? What are you most concerned about right now? Where is the storm? What is it threatening? What is its course?
Well, the center of the storm is still south of Cape Hatteras at the present time. It's going to cross the outer banks of North Carolina in the pre-dawn hours. And then you remember we talked last night about 3 possible options. An inland route, which means the storm would weaken, and then just be gales spread up into New England. A second option was that the hurricane might stay along the coastline and maintain its hurricane force. It looks like that's the option that the hurricane is trying to follow.
And at the moment, if it follows its current course, is it likely to hit the eastern seaboard as far north as New York and New Jersey?
Why, certainly, if it stays right offshore or right along the coastline, then it can maintain its strength. Certainly, if it accelerates the way we think it's going to accelerate in its forward speed, so it may be moving rather rapidly as it moves on up towards the New York area. We're talking about something along the Jersey coast midday tomorrow, and then even tomorrow night, that it would be on up to the south coast of New England. And if it moves that fast, it can maintain a good bit of strength.
What's its strength right now?
Oh, we got 130-mile-an-hour winds. It's still a very powerful storm. You know, we had that initial weakening yesterday, and then it stabilized today and stayed right on 130 miles an hour all day.
And still moving along at a clip of about 20 miles an hour?
Oh, yeah, it's moving at least 20 miles an hour, and it's going to accelerate as it moves on up towards the New England area.
All right, Neil, we'll be back with you a little bit later. As I say, we'll be talking again with Dr. Frank later in this broadcast. And we also hope to get a live update on the hurricane via telephone from a Coast Guard cutter that's been tracking the storm in the Atlantic. But first, here are some reports filed tonight by correspondents along the path of the hurricane. We must warn you, some of the video is not quite up to par because of the effects of the severe weather.
This is Joe Spencer in New Bern. All along North Carolina's coast tonight, there is a deepening awareness that Hurricane Gloria is no lady. As she intensifies, 12-foot waves are pounding the beachfront. Roadblocks have been set up, and police turned back an ABC News crew that attempted to go farther down the beach.
What's wrong? Y'all gonna stay down here?
Most coastal islands, like Atlantic Beach, resemble ghost towns. But even before the impact of Hurricane Gloria became clear tonight, streets were flooding. And ahead of the high water came a steady exodus of residents into evacuation centers.
We decided to get as far away from the coast area as we could, so we came here to the shelter.
The danger now is the storm surge. Rising tides, which usually cause the greatest number of deaths and injury in any hurricane, much less one of this fearsome power.
This is Barry Seraphin in Norfolk, Virginia. Streets that had been jammed with traffic headed inland from this port city this afternoon were nearly deserted tonight. There were still a few people boarding up windows at the last moment, but with tides expected 6 feet above normal, thousands of people had already fled from low-lying areas. Many of those who stayed made their way to more than 100 shelters, mostly school gymnasiums. One family sought privacy even there.
It's the closest thing to homes we can get.
At Old Dominion University, students packed up valuables. Then about 400 of them left dormitories to take refuge in that school's gym.
Well, at first I thought it was just a joke and everybody was overdoing it. And when I got back from class and they told us we had to leave, now I know it's really serious.
Still, the mood was not entirely grim. Some students danced to a song called What Else? Gloria. Those who went to shelters and those who stayed put are just waiting now to see what morning and the storm will bring. This is Barry Seraphin for Nightline in Norfolk, Virginia.
Even though Governor Thomas Kean suggested the casinos close at midnight, many of them decided to suggest to their guests that they return to their homes much earlier than that. Here at the Atlantis Casino, the casinos closed at 11, and guests scurried to check out.
I want to leave tonight. I want to go home tonight. I'm getting scared. I'm in the room. They keep saying, watch it and be careful and leave and leave and leave. And I'm here alone. I want to go home.
For this man, Atlantic City was going to be the site of the reunion of the 87th Division, which fought in World War II.
That's right. We are going to stay.
Are you frightened at all about this hurricane?
Not when you've been in the Battle of the Bulge.
And then there was Robert Rosenstein, who just drove in from Baltimore, Maryland, with his wife, Barbara.
My wife she's concerned, yes. I'm not, but she is. I feel we're in a safe building.
We're discussing it right now. We're not sure what we're going to do. We really don't know right now. I mean, they are advising people not to check out.
But for most people staying at the casinos in Atlantic City, there was absolutely no debate. The majority of the guests decided to head for home, as the casinos and the hotels prepared to operate with skeleton crews. Harry Martin, Channel 6 Action News, Atlantic City, New Jersey.
I'm Lewis Young on Long Island, where the barrier islands here facing the Atlantic are already being evacuated. Late this afternoon and early this evening, residents of the resort community of Fire Island were evacuated by ferry. An estimated 2,000 people were on those ferry boats. Since then, mandatory evacuations have gone into effect for neighboring Oak Island and Jones Island, which is where Jones Beach is located. The few residents of those islands are being allowed to go on, get some valuables out of their homes, and then get out. The barrier islands closer to New York City, Long Beach Island, Coney Island, the Rockaways, well, the officials there are waiting until we get within 12 hours of estimated landfall for Hurricane Gloria before making a determination on how the evacuation will be handled. In eastern Long Island, Suffolk County executives have warned residents on the main part of Long Island to move inland before 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And in New York City, the World Trade Center will be closed tomorrow because of the expected high winds. The New York metropolitan area is bracing for the arrival of Gloria. In Atlantic Beach, New York, Lewis Young for ABC News.
Southern New Englanders are taking no chances. They are buying extra food and other household necessities so they will not get caught short.
Batteries, some flashlights, maybe some duct tape for the windows and so forth.
You know, if it hits. I was down in Hurricane Camille, down on the Gulf Coast, and I see what happens, you know. So,
what are you thinking of getting?
Just a stove. I have most other things, so I was thinking of a stove. We didn't have electricity for over a week then, so I take it seriously.
Buying many things that do not require refrigeration, such as jam and produce, some of the fruits particularly.
While you are in your house with these things, here are some more tips. Tape your windows to prevent shattering by the high winds. Fill up your bathtub with water in the event there is a shortage of H2O. And again, make sure you have all those batteries for radios and candles for light.
When we come back, we're going to try to talk with the commander of a U.S. Coast Guard cutter, which is tracking the storm a couple of hundred miles out in the Atlantic.
This is ABC News Nightline, brought to you by AT&T.
Put people together.
Hey, I got an idea.
AT&T can help your business grow.
For us at American Express, building one worldwide nerve center was a dream come true. Finding the communications and information systems that could grow with us might have been a nightmare. We chose AT&T. You don't trust your dream to just anyone.
Whether it's telephones, information systems, long-distance services, or computers.
The right choice, AT&T.
In 1984, a Persian Gulf conflict threatened a world oil shortage.
I think we better alert the Secretary.
Investors called Merrill Lynch.
How does this affect the energy stocks?
Research has been covering the situation.
Take a look at this, Dave. This could really impact oil stocks. Better check sources in the Middle East.
Facts clearly spell out that it was a political maneuver.
So the flow won't be interrupted.
More resources.
Here's the latest.
Better solutions.
Ah, that's good news.
Merrill Lynch people, a breed apart.
Mobil 1 synthetic motor oil. The technology behind it gives this driver engine protection he can depend on. And this driver. And this driver. And this driver. Mobil synthetic oil technology. There's no finer engine protection on Earth or anywhere else.
Protect your home from fire and theft with quality supplies from the Fire Prevention and Security Center at True Value Hardware stores. Like this Schlage single-cylinder deadbolt with a 1-inch throw bolt and strike frame reinforcer that resists kick-in attacks. Put out small household fires with the Kit of Force 9 Halon fire extinguisher, which leaves no messy residue. And protect valuables and important papers in the Sentry Fire Safe Security Chest from participating True Value Hardware stores and home centers.
13,000 Americans have been diagnosed as having AIDS. 150,000 have AIDS-related complex. We'll explain what it is tomorrow on World News Tonight.
With us now live via telephone from Raleigh, North Carolina, is Joseph Myers, Director of the Division of Emergency Management for the state of North Carolina. Mr. Myers, since you're first online there, I'd like you to bring us up to date as to what evidence of the storm there is at this point.
Well, at the current moment, Ted, we expect landfall between midnight and 1 o'clock this morning. The storm is about 100 miles from south of near Cape Lookout, near Morehead City. We are experiencing hurricane force winds on the Cape Hatteras area, up to 75-mile-an-hour winds.
Now, you're a few miles inland there in Raleigh-Durham. Are you experiencing any of those winds that far in?
We're beginning to get some rain. We're expecting up to 200-mile area to get some gust winds.
And what about the folks who live in the low-lying areas, especially along those barrier islands? Have they all been removed? Have they all been evacuated?
We have evacuated around 90,000 people, and currently have in shelter about 20,000 people in about 67 shelters.
And do you have any reason to believe that there are people left out there?
There are, in one area, the Ocracoke area, we have completed about a 90% evacuation. There's still about 80 people there.
All right, sir. I'd appreciate it if you'd stand by for a while. What we want to do is run up and down the coast a little bit. One of my colleagues, Stephen Gear, is out on the coast of New Jersey. Where are you, Stephen? Atlantic City?
Yes, Ted, I'm on the boardwalk at Atlantic City, looking across the way at the convention center where they picked Miss America, and I suspect that the people in Atlantic City, those who haven't evacuated, can tell you the name of this hurricane and can't tell you the first name of the Miss America they chose this year.
I wouldn't blame them at all at this late date and facing what they're facing. How bad is it at the moment?
The weather has been getting bad in the past hour, I would say, Ted. The winds have been picking up gusts of perhaps 30 miles an hour. The ocean is sending in continuing white breakers, and it's raining harder and harder. And of course, the gambling industry is shut down. The casinos have closed tonight.
That's probably the most extraordinary thing I've heard about this storm so far, because those are folks who really don't shut down unless they absolutely have to.
Absolutely.
Who made them?
The governor suggested it, and they did it. And it's the first time in 7.5 years of legalized gambling here that they have shut down.
All right. One other question, Stephen, and that is people in that area are not as accustomed to hurricanes as people further south, people in the Florida area, Georgia, the Carolinas. How well are they reacting? How seriously are they taking it?
I think they're beginning to take it seriously. There are some storm precautions being taken, windows boarded up and so forth. It's a strange idea here, and this is a substantial community. A number of people have left. State police are discouraging people from coming across the 3 bridges leading to this island. They're beginning to be worried.
All right, Stephen Gear, thank you very much. We have now made contact with that Coast Guard cutter I told you about a moment ago. Joining us live now via ship-to-shore radio telephone is Captain Bern Miller, skipper of the Coast Guard cutter Harriet Lane, which is currently located in the Atlantic, some 350 miles, I believe, due east of Norfolk, Virginia. Captain Miller, Harriet Lane, do you read me? Over. Captain Miller, I hate to tell you this, and I'm not sure if you can hear me right now, but we are having a good deal of trouble hearing you. We'll try and get that signal unscrambled a little bit, and when we do, we'll come out and talk to you again. For the moment, let's take a break. We'll be back in just a moment.
The enemy. Rain. A mere 1/8 inch can float your car off the road. Thus the rationale for Vector, Goodyear's unique all-season radio. So advanced, its crisscross tread actually pumps away water to help more tire and your car stay on the road. The Goodyear Vector. It simply performs like no other tire in the world.
What's this stuff? Some cereal. It's supposed to be good for you. Did you try it? I'm not going to try it. You try it. I'm not going to try it. Let's get Mikey. Yeah. He won't eat it. He hates everything. He likes it. Hey, Mikey.
There are two kinds of Life cereals to please all kinds of kids. Regular Life and Cinnamon Life. Part of your family's nutritious breakfast.
Now, a world of magic is in your hands.
Hey, Dad, dragon breath.
Panasonic presents Omni-Movie, a camera and video recorder in one. Capture magic moments forever.
Get a close-up, Joe.
Yeah. Omni-Movie uses full-size VHS tapes, plays Hollywood movies or your own.
Here's right, get 'em.
Don't miss a single Omni-Movie magic moment from Panasonic, just slightly ahead of our time.
How reassuring to know each night help is here for skin whose firmness has become a thing of the past. Lancome's Forte Vital Tissue Firming Cream works through the night to give you a younger look each morning. French laboratory tests prove skin becomes more firm with Forte Vital. No wonder the French call it Le Lifting de Nuit. Lancome, Paris.
Le Lancome, part of the exciting Lancome collection. $12.50 with any Lancome purchase.
You'll find it at Marshall Fields.
Where in the world would you go to breakfast in France? Do a little shopping in the Casbah? And have dinner in Japan? Where would you go to hula in Hawaii one night and be on Broadway the next? To sail away and spend time together. Where would you go? Walt Disney World. Surprised? Call 1-800-3-DISNEY for more information and your free brochure.
And joining us now live from Morehead City, North Carolina, is ABC News correspondent Joe Spencer. Joe, how bad is it in Morehead City? Are you beginning to get the first effects of it?
Beginning to, Ted. I must say that out of deep respect for Hurricane Gloria, these people in eastern North Carolina are going to ground. Even this far inland, they are seeking shelter. In fact, they've been told it is absolutely unsafe to venture outside. Local forecasters are saying that there is a 55% chance that if the hurricane does come ashore, it will hit in this general area. And Ted, to make matters even worse, there have been several tornadoes sighted in this area. Of course, tornadoes are an offshoot of any hurricane of this size.
What kind of wind strength is there right now, Joe? You know, somehow I keep thinking of the calm before the storm. It's beyond that point, isn't it?
It's beyond that, Ted, but from what the folks who've weathered many, many hurricanes in this area say, this is nothing compared to what it could become. The winds clearly are picking up, and so is the rain. In fact, as minutes and hours pass, it's getting worse. I have no idea. The last check was over 25, 30 miles an hour, and gusts certainly far greater than that.
And of course, the winds of that storm, as we heard from Dr. Neil Frank, are carrying peak winds of around 130, 135 miles an hour. So you've got a ways to go. Joe, I thank you. If you'd be good enough to stand by, we may be coming back to you a little bit later. Joining us now live in our Washington bureau is Dr. Samuel Speck, Associate Director of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, which is responsible for preparation and response to major natural disasters. So what you have to do, and what I would appreciate you're doing for us, is you need an overview. Give it to us. What do you think is the overall impact, or what do you think the overall impact of the storm is likely to be?
Well, at this point, Ted, we really don't know. We know we're going to be hit somewhere with a hurricane. We know there are going to be serious tornadoes. We know there will be serious inland flooding in some areas because of the torrential rains that will also come with that hurricane. But it's sort of like trying to figure out where a fly is going to land on the table.
All right, explain the business of the flooding to me. I understand the heavy rains. You can get 3, 4, 5, 6 inches in an hour, but it also has something to do with water being literally pushed inland, and in some cases, rivers being flooded by those waters being pushed in, doesn't it?
Right. You get a very substantial pushing of that water and a circular motion, so it comes from the one side in a counterclockwise direction. And you can get surges of 15-foot waves coming in, which will simply inundate low-lying islands. And that's accompanied often by the tornadoes, particularly at the landfall areas.
Speculate with me now for a moment. We know what happens when a hurricane comes inland. As it passes over land, it gradually loses the force of its wind. But what if the eye of that hurricane continues what appears to be its current track and keeps heading up the coast over water with the winds of the hurricane itself extending over to the land? Then what's going to happen?
Well, if it continues to go up off the coast and is not slowed down by going over land, then it looks like we could have a very bad situation up in Long Island. You'll recall when the 1938 hurricane hit that area, we lost some 600 people. So it could be very serious, and that's why it's important that people respond by evacuating and boarding up and tying down and lifting up as they're doing now.
Explain to me what is so dangerous about Long Island. Why is that such a vulnerable spot?
Well, you have many people living in the low-lying areas along the coast. You have some limited highways there along the coast. If people wait too long and those become all flooded, then you have some real problems. You have the same thing along the New Jersey coast as well.
All right, as a matter of fact, we're looking at the Atlantic beach right now off Long Island. That's a live picture that we're looking at right now. I must say it looks very calm, but then, and Neil Frank, it's time to come back to you. If indeed the storm makes it all the way up the coast to Long Island, when would they be anticipating it? When would you be anticipating it?
Well, it looks like it might pass the Jersey coast sometime around midday, and it could be up to the Long Island area as early as late tomorrow afternoon.
Now, Mr. Speck was just talking about what happened in 1938. I'm thinking as I listened to him, in 1938, of course, Long Island was not the jam-packed kind of suburban area that it is right now. That makes it incredibly dangerous, doesn't it? When you have that, I mean, I remember hearing you when we were talking about that other hurricane a few weeks ago in Florida. Your great concern was that more and more people are moving into areas with fewer roads to get them out.
Yeah, that's true, Ted, but listen, there's a lot of Long Island that would be very safe during a hurricane, and you just can't evacuate all of Long Island. That's just literally impossible. But places like the West Hampton Beach, you know, in 1938, there was 178 homes along that beachfront. Only 25 survived when the water literally went over Fire Island and over that West Hampton Beach and swept many of those buildings back over to the mainland of Long Island. So we're talking about the immediate coastal areas. There's a little, I understand that there's a little weekend retreat area on Fire Island where maybe as many as 12,000 people go out to in the summertime on a weekend. Well, if there's people out there and they got to get out there by ferry, it's important that they get back to the safety of the mainland of Long Island.
Well, as we saw just a moment ago, Neil, they are already evacuating people. They've been evacuating people from Fire Island by ferry. What I'd like you to do very quickly for us, because not everyone joins us right at the top of the show, give us a quick update, will you?
Yes, the center of Gloria is south of the Outer Banks of North Carolina. It's moving northward about 20 miles an hour. It's expected to cross the Outer Banks during the pre-dawn hours, and that means that most of the populated areas, you know, more to Wilmington and over in that area, have escaped the full brunt of this storm. We expect it then to accelerate to the north and the northeast, and the center looks like it's going to move very close to the coastline, and if it does and it stays close to the water, then the hurricane force conditions could sweep on up in to the south coast of New England by late tomorrow afternoon.
All right, Neil Frank, thank you very much. What we're going to do when we come back is we'll check in very quickly with each of our correspondents along the route of that hurricane, and I want to go back to Dr. Samuel Speck, Associate Director of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and just get some quick suggestions from him on what you should do if indeed your home is in the path of the storm. All of that when we come back.
No two offices are exactly alike, but they all have one thing in common. They not only have to look right, they have to function right, right down to the copiers. For some, that means a personal copier. For others, a full-featured compact copier, or a high-performance system, or even the laser copier of the future at work right now. For these and everything in between, only one company gives business so many choices. In copiers, the choice is Canon.
Give me that great taste of love 1,000 times more. Give me Kraft Thousand Island. Come on, let the great taste pour.
How do you describe the one-of-a-kind taste of Kraft Thousand Island dressing? It's bumpy, crunchy, juicy, sweet, tangy, creamy, thick, and wonderful. Kraft Thousand Island, 1,000 great tastes in one great dressing.
Kraft dressing.
Thousand Island.
Let the great taste pour.
Excuse me.
Huh?
Is this yours?
Why?
Well, I've been here for a few minutes.
Is something wrong?
No, I was just... What is this?
It's a Pontiac Fiero.
Fiero. Mid-engine, right?
Yeah, fuel injected.
Oh.
Hey, want to ride?
Well...
You really should know more about the cars you ticket.
So who says I'm giving you a ticket?
So who says I'm giving you a ride?
We build excitement, Pontiac.
It's true, you know. American industry needs energy to grow. But imported energy is unpredictable. It can even be taken away. So our industries are using more electricity from resources found here at home, like coal and nuclear energy. And we're all using energy more efficiently. Efficiency, coal, and nuclear energy. That's homegrown energy America can count on.
As Hurricane Gloria slams into the eastern seaboard, live early morning reports on its destructive path. Tomorrow on ABC's World News This Morning before Good Morning America.
How big a threat is Hurricane Gloria? Tomorrow, Dave Murray tracks the big storm. And should networks and cable be regulated more closely? We'll hear about it tomorrow on Good Morning America.
We're going to try again. Joining us live now via ship-to-shore radio telephone is Captain Bern Miller, skipper of the Coast Guard cutter Harriet Lane, currently located in the Atlantic, I believe, some 350 miles due east of Norfolk, Virginia. Captain Miller, Harriet Lane, do you read me? Over.
Good evening. I read you loud and clear. Go ahead.
All right. Tell us a little bit about where you are, what your proximity is to the storm, and what you can tell us about the storm, and indeed what your mission is out there. Why in heaven's name are you out there on a day like this? Over.
Well, actually, we and three ships like us left our home port of Norfolk about 2 o'clock this morning to get out of the path of the storm and avoid its worst effects. We're presently about 450 miles to the northeast of the eye and have done very well so far. We're only seeing about 20 to 25 knots of wind and 8 to 12 feet of sea.
All right, Captain Miller, if you'd hold on just 1 second, I want to warn our affiliates we're going to be going a little bit over tonight because we still have a couple of people that we want to check in with. But let me go back for a moment now to Captain Bern Miller, who is the skipper of that Coast Guard cutter. What happens to ships? What is likely to happen to a ship if it gets caught even by the edge of that hurricane? What kind of seas are out there? Over.
If we were to be caught anywhere close to the eye, we could expect to see those 135 to 150 knots of wind and just mountainous seas.
and that's what we want to avoid. That's why we're headed east away from it now.
When you say mountainous seas, Captain, what do you mean? Over.
Probably 30 to 40 to 50 feet and zero visibility and driving spray and just awful conditions.
And how large a ship would be able to survive those kinds of seas?
A ship of any size can survive it, provided it doesn't have any kind of problems and it keeps its power plant running. You lose a power plant and you're in trouble.
All right, give us whatever oversight you can from out there. You're in a rather unique position, but I don't know if there's anything you can see or based on your instruments out there, whether there's anything you can tell us that our experts down at the National Hurricane Center can't tell us. Over.
Well, we receive information from them almost as soon as it's put out and follow it very closely. From our own observations, we're probably on the edge of the weather system now and headed away from it.
All right, Captain Miller, I thank you. Stay out of trouble, and I hope you can keep everybody else out of trouble out there. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you.
Joining us now live via telephone from Norfolk, Virginia, is ABC News correspondent Barry Seraphin. Barry, you're getting the first impact of that storm yet? All the ships I know moved out of that area earlier today.
That's right, Ted. This is a very important naval port. More than 30 of those big naval vessels moved out to safer seas while small boats were headed for shore. Right now, we've got a hard driving rain. We've had rain for about 12 hours, but it's coming down very hard, and the wind is picking up here. Streets are virtually deserted. Thousands of people left during the day today, and thousands more who remained are in shelters tonight.
And what is the forecast for Norfolk? That should be just a few hours away from getting the main brunt of the storm, shouldn't it?
They're looking for something pre-dawn here in the early morning hours, and in anticipation of that, Governor Robb has mobilized several hundred National Guardsmen who may help out, especially if any more evacuation is needed from low-lying areas.
How familiar are folks in the Norfolk, Virginia, with hurricanes? Have they been, refresh my memory, have they been hit by a hurricane recently?
They've seen some nasty storms, Ted, but they haven't seen a hurricane in 25 years, so this is a new experience for most of these people.
And are they reacting to it well? Are they getting out of the way?
They're taking it very seriously. It looks like a ghost town tonight.
All right, Barry Seraphin, many thanks. Now, finally, with us again is Dr. Samuel Speck, Associate Director of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. I said before, and I hope you can do it for us, rather quickly give folks a sense, if they're expecting the storms, if they're expecting high water, what should people be doing? The obvious things, batteries, candles, tape on the window, beyond that.
Right. Obviously, you want to board things up and elevate things and tie things down, and I think it's important to stress that tying things down because in a hurricane, a kid's scooter can become a lethal weapon, and these things need to be taken care of, and not merely along the coast, but where the storm may come inland in cities. I think you also want to plan to be without electricity and without water for a period of time, and that means having non-perishable food stores available for yourself and these kinds of things. You want to, if you're in a low-lying area, plan to evacuate in plenty of time, and that means following the guidance of your local and state officials. One of the problems is people think they can wait